Well, as you can see, it's a beautiful day outside, but the sunshine has a tendency to conflict with the inside lights, so I'm going to shut the door while I do the video today. Just an update from Monday. I got the CX back from Mike, and it still wasn't running quite right. Has some other issues, so I took it back down there. He said he'd take a look at it and see if he can get it worked out, which I fully believe he can. So he said he'd probably be done with it by Monday. In the meantime, I did get a little bit of time out here this week, and I got to the rear wiring, wired up the rear harness on this. I don't have a brake light still, so I still have some troubleshooting to go through, and the carbs I know are probably still going to need some help. So I kind of pushed this to the back burner because I really wanted to continue working on this. I haven't done anything with this as far as doing a lot with it. I did pull the calipers and clean the calipers up, but this project needs to get moving along. So today I'm probably going to get through the calipers, and I'm going to pull all the fairing and get all the cables hooked up and pull all this garbage out and clean up all this rust. And that's what I'm going to be working on the next couple days, trying to get this to a point of being ready to run or being ready to ride. That's kind of my goal for the next few days, is just to work on this one nonstop and get it to where it needs to be. This is alpha. I bought a battery for it so I can fire it up. Doing some other things with it. The Kawasaki came back. I took it for a test drive yesterday. She was having some issues with it and just wasn't able to figure them out, and I wasn't able to figure them out at her house. So I brought it back, messed with it a little bit, took it to Mike's, and he messed with it, and I took it for a ride yesterday. It rode pretty good, so if I was a collector, I would be keeping it, but you can't keep all of them. So the next few days I'm going to be working on this, and maybe do a couple videos along with it, depending on what I run into, what I feel like maybe needs a video. And for right now, I'm going to open this big door and let some of that sunshine in, and we're going to have a good Friday. Alright, so one of the things I have to do on this particular bike, on Alpha, is to clean up all of the rust. And a lot of times what happens with these is this chrome, it just starts to rust, and most of the time, like this stuff is light surface rust. It looks bad, but it's just light surface rust. Down here is going to be a little bit deeper. It's probably through the chrome, but overall it looks pretty bad. So what I've used in the past is Quad 000000 steel wool, and that takes a lot of elbow grease. But what I found, I have this brass wire wheel from that I ended up with, and this works really well. So if we look here, we see that we have quite a bit of rust, and it's really hard to get into that area. And it actually cleaned up really well. I'll probably hit that again with the steel wool, but overall it knocked most of that rust right off of there. Kind of hard to do this with one hand. Look how well that cleaned up. So that's what this whole bike is going to get. Every bit of chrome on here that has surface rust like that is getting cleaned up, and the reason is because it looks better. And if it looks better, it's going to sell better. Working on these back brakes, just trying to bleed them out, and it doesn't look like the master's pumping, so I may have to change the master on this one. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're going to make progress with this. All right, still working on Alpha. I wanted to point something out, is that yes, I did get some scratches with that brass wheel, so maybe test it in an inconspicuous space similar to this before you do the whole thing. And it seemed to not scratch as bad on this particular piece. I don't know why. It's just a different structure. I don't know. But I'm getting most of this cleaned up pretty good with just steel wool. I did get my brake plate out, so that's good news. Just had a couple loose fittings. Tighten those up, and this is my brake bleeding apparatus. It works really well. Just hook a tube up here, hang it high so that it pushes all the air out, and it will push some of the fluid out and some of the icky fluid. And not that there was much left in this one, because I pulled the caliper, cleaned it, The reservoir was dry, so there was only a little bit in the line, and there was just a little bit that came through right away. So this one should be good, ready to go. The front ones still need a little bit of work, but I'm back here working on this end of the bike, so I'm just going to stay back here and work on this, and I'll get to those front brakes when I get to them. But my exhaust pipe cleaned up pretty good. This is cleaning up really well, so getting there, making progress. All right, I'm back, and you can see that I've taken all of the plastics off of it. Really doesn't take much. Yeah, there's 2 bolts on this one, it pops off. There's 4 bolts on each bag. There's supposed to be, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 12 bolts on the fairing. There was 10, so 2 of them were missing. Not that big a deal. There's 4 bolts that hold this false tank on. And I was going to take all this off anyways, and just to clean this back up, it's just going to be so much easier without the stuff on there. The other thing is that I decided to take everything off at once, because I was just going to take the back off, put it back on, then take the front off. But I've got this wire right here that's running up to one of these switches from the fuse box, and it goes all the way back into this wiring harness, which then goes back to here. So my guess is that that is probably the tail light, if I had to guess, and I am guessing. So in order to address the wiring that's on this, the extra wiring and what it's for, I decided it was best just to take everything off so that we're working with pretty much a clean slate across. And as you can see, from sitting outside for 2 years, it creates a lot of dust. There's mud hornet nests, spider webs, weeds growing up through it. So I think right now I'm going to push it out and give it a good bath, which it needs anyways, and then bring it in and back and continue working. I think I'm probably just going to go through the cleaning of all of this, get all the chrome cleaned up, and then start working on this wiring. I've run external wires for lights before. In fact, my GL right now has one, because it has the tail light doesn't work. So it was either the tail light or the brake light, one of the two. Just has a dead short somewhere in the harness, and rather than pull all of this harness apart and try to figure out for one stinking wire, I just did the same thing. So in my opinion, this is not a bad idea, but the execution is wrong, because every time you get on the bike, you got to flip this switch, and then you got to remember to shut it off. So we'll clean it up. If this has to stay, that's fine with me, but I will clean it up and make it a better system. Oh, the other thing is that I found, and yay, more wiring. This particular is supposed to have a plug that goes from all of this and hooks into the fairing. And factory gives you one of these, which has all the plugs on it. It actually has this plug that goes into a fairing. See, those work. And I happen to have an extra one of those, but now I have to process it and work it into here. So like I said, yay, more wiring. And we've got a bunch of these, which are always really fun. They do wonderful things to wires. Somebody was in here, which it would be better if it wasn't. Replacing a tack cable and a choke cable. Not too bad overall. I'm a little disappointed with this wiring, and this is a little worse than what I thought, but I think I'll be able to figure all this out. So for right now, we're getting a bath. We're going to push it out. We're going to get rid of these mud nests. We're going to get rid of this dust that's on here, and then we will move forward with it. And it looks like I've torn a lot of it apart, but it's just the really big stuff, like the fairing and the bags and all of that. And it's all just plastic, and it all just bolts right back up. You know, it took me, I don't know, 10 minutes to take all of it off. So, and it really needed to come off anyway, so not a big deal. You just make adjustments as you go. Moving right along. Man, it is just so nice out here today. I had to wheel it back out. Well, I wheeled it out and washed it. I'm just going to leave it out here and work on it. It's just so nice out here, and by mid-afternoon or so, I start getting shade over here, so it'll be perfect. My goal today, since I started working on it, my goal is to get every chrome piece on it polished to my standard. It may not be perfect, it may not be absolutely beautiful, but it will look better. If we see this piece right here is already looking better, there are some pieces in there, sections in there that need cleaned up, but as a whole it looks pretty good compared to this, and it looked about like that. So this as well, looking a little rough. It'll look better when I get done with it. The wash did wonders for it. That's something I usually do first thing, but considering how these bikes came in, I was busy doing stuff and it wasn't a high priority. So I do have a lot of buildup in the engine, and I had some degreaser engine cleaner stuff and got that on there, so maybe a little more elbow grease, maybe a little bit more of that. If we look in here, this is absolutely disgusting, so that's going to be fun cleaning that up. Once everything's cleaned up, I need to change the oil, and I'll check the radiator fluid. I'm going to drain the gas, put fresh gas in it, probably today, do that. And then I still got to, this caliper was leaking a little bit, and I never did completely clean this, so those are things I can do. Maybe not today, but I will get to them. Today is polishing, and the wash and the little bit of polish that I've done so far has really increased the appeal of this bike, which is what I'm trying to do by doing all of this. If I can get it running, I mean, I bought this bike to sell, so I need to get it running. It needs to look good, and everything needs to work. So that's what we're working on. Right now we're working on making it look good, and then we will move into running and fixing this spaghetti mess. Probably not as bad as it looks up here, but it does look really bad. So we'll get to it. Still got these cables to replace. I guess I'm just not looking forward to those. We will keep it moving. I just wanted to show a quick walk around of this side that's not been polished. We've got a lot of crud built up over it. These have been left out, exposed, and they just look horrible. Down in here, the radiator grill, which this looked very much the same, and I just, you know, kind of hit that just now. But look at this side. It looked just like the other side. I managed to knock all the corrosion off of this, all of the really loose stuff off of these mounting screws. I mean, you put this chrome on here to make this bike look good and to shine, and then when they start rusting like that, it doesn't. So, and these pieces need to be, they're hard to get in and wash, so it's pretty easy to let them corrode. Coming along the back here, we see that this has all been polished up nice. And then we come back up here. This is the only section I have left, along with the radiator guard, that still needs polish. So a little bit of work on polishing, and then we'll probably be done with that. Well, we made good progress today. I rolled the Alpha back in, and I rolled the CX out. Mike called, said the CB. Mike called, said the CX is ready to be picked up. There was a coil that's not right on it. I got a couple coils, so I'll just bring it back and change that myself. I am going to have him go through the carburetors on the CB, which gives me a little bit of room in here, which is fantastic. I just wanted to show the polish job on this bike. I am utterly thrilled with what happened and how this turned out. All of that buildup and crud and tarnish just come off of this bike so nice and so easy. Yeah, I spent the better part of a day working on it, but if you hit it when you wash it, you don't have to spend a day working on it. Just keep it clean, dude. A lot of this stuff down in here, you don't see. The saddlebag sits here. What you're going to see is this, and you're going to see a little bit of this. So as long as that looks nice to me, just cleaning everything else up is important, but the visual thing that you see all the time is so much more important. But all of these chrome pieces came out really, really nice. As I was working on it, I did get the fuel drained out of here. Just found some really interesting wiring going on here, so I don't think it's as bad as what it looks. I just have to figure out what they were trying to do with it, so that when I get the battery plugged in, I know what's going on. But right now, I've got to go back down and pick up the CX from Mike. And then when I come back, we'll see where we're at. I had some other things I was going to do today. Probably not going to get to them. So it kind of depends. But I did get this polished up, which was my goal for the day. So that part is done. Tomorrow when I come out, I think I'm going to start on this extra wiring and figure that out. Put a battery in it. Probably put some fuel in it. Make sure it fires. And from there, fix this wiring. As long as it fires and shifts, you know, I can test the shifting out right here. As long as all of that seems okay, I will finish this wiring up and this thing will be ready. So that's where I'm at today. Probably done with the video, but I don't know. We'll see what happens when we come back. Maybe I'll get the CX running yet today.